All righty, everyone. We are at the top of the hour now, and we're going to get started with our special hour-long sustainability webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. We have quite the amount of information to share with you, so we'll get started right away. First of all, we always like to thank our members. So everybody that supports People for Bikes, your businesses, your organizations, thank you so much for your support. We couldn't do our great work in Washington, D.C. and your cities and states without that support. So thank you very, very much. My name is Eric Rodell. I am our Industry Engagement Manager here at People for Bikes. And we have a few great speakers to share with you today from our coalition partners and here at People for Bikes as well. We'll jump right into introducing our speakers. We have JJ Trout, our Chief of Staff here at People for Bikes, who has been leading our sustainability efforts and organizing our groups to make sure that we're all set up for success while we're doing these endeavors. And then we also have Jessie Curry joining us from OIA, and she is the Sustainable Business Innovation Manager over there that helps to lead efforts like the Climate Action Corps. And you'll hear more from JJ and Jessie very shortly. But before we get to that, I want to introduce our three coalition members that we have joining us today and give them a brief opportunity to introduce themselves, what they do for their companies, and what they do in general for the greater effort of collaboration in the bike industry. Troy, could you come on and introduce yourself for us?
You bet. Thanks, Eric. Hey, everybody. I'm Troy Jones. I'm the Social and Environmental Responsibility Manager at Specialized Bicycles. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. Before that, I was the first chairperson of OIA's Fair Labor Working Group, which really established the foundation for a lot of the work that OIA has gone on to do in social and environmental efforts. And when I look back at what we've done so far as a People for Bike Sustainability Working Group and the progress that we've made to date, I'm super excited about the potential. There are just so many things that we can do together. I'm excited to be working with this group on it.
Great, thank you, Troy. And Katie?
Awesome. I'm Katie Thompson, and I lead the product development and quality engineering team at Burley Design. So I've been working in the bike industry for 8 going on 9 years, mostly from the lens of design and product development. Formerly at QBP, I was very involved in our building our sustainability plan as it looks at product sustainability and manufacturing, along with efforts in initiatives in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So currently at Burley, starting in the first year phase of really looking at where our goals and where our intentions and trajectory is in sustainability and climate action. So we're really excited to join you here today and really talk and speak from a small brand side of things and how to get going and how to get started in the process and in the journey in sustainability.
Thank you, Katie. And Chris?
Hey, I'm Chris. I lead product development at Yakima. That includes engineering, design, quality, test validation, and manufacturing. I'm also executive sponsor of Yakima's sustainability initiative. Sustainability has inputs and outputs and impacts across the organization. So rather than having a small dedicated sustainability staff, we've got a cross-functional team. We have about 7 of us from across the organization. None of us are full-time on sustainability, but we collaborate to spread the load and ensure we're not working in isolation. Since restarting Yakima's sustainability efforts about 4 years ago, we've been members of OIA's Sustainability Working Group, and we adopted the HIG early on. It wasn't particularly targeting hard goods, but we've been working with the HIG group and providing feedback as the early versions have developed. been really helpful for us, and it's evolved quite a bit. This year, we joined the People for Bikes Sustainability Working Group, and I'm on the Restricted Substances List Working Group. And this complements our efforts with OIA, and it broadens our opportunities for collaboration with generally more hard goods focused brands.
Thank you, Chris. And now I'll hand things over to JJ to get us started with our agenda.
Awesome. Yes, Troy, Katie, Chris, thank you for everything you do to lead the bike industry. We are super lucky to have you as part of our sustainability working group at People for Bikes. And our agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the People for Bikes Sustainability Working Group, let you know what we're doing. Troy, our co-chair of the Sustainability Working Group, is going to walk through a lot of that. We'll have Katie and Troy and Chris talk to you about their business imperative for sustainability, why they've gotten involved. And then Jesse's going to talk to us about the Climate Action Corps partnership that People for Bikes and Outdoor Industry Association recently created as a membership benefit for our coalition members. And then we'll leave time for question and answers at the end. Thanks, Brody. If you can move the slide. So just, really quickly, we formed People for Bikes Sustainability Working Group in April of this year because last year, member companies told us that there was a need to create a space for the industry to collaborate on these initiatives. And so we've known for years that the bike itself is a great tool for sustainability. A city with more cycling is a city with healthier people, safer streets, cleaner air, and better connectivity. But the industry knew the action of creating and transporting bikes needed to be looked at, because a business with more sustainable policies is a business with better resilience, stronger relationships, and greater value to customers. So People for Bikes created this space for the bike industry to collaborate, learn, and move forward together faster. We're going to hear from all of our bike businesses on the call today as to why they decided to tackle sustainability. But before we get there, I'd love for our co-chair, Troy Jones with Specialized Bicycles, to talk a little bit more about sustainability and our sustainability working group. Thanks, Troy.
Thanks, JJ. I get to define the undefinable. I think you'll probably find as many definitions of sustainability as you will, find people willing to answer that question. But this first one is really my personal opinion, and that is, it's an aspirational goal. It's operating in a way that sustains rather than degrades communities and the planet. So it's aspirational. It identifies the importance of both social and environmental sustainability. But most of the things that us and other businesses do in this space fall short of that ideal, but provide a really important foundation nonetheless. You need to get started. You need to determine what your impacts are. And in doing that, you quickly realize that making the way you currently operate slightly less harmful can get you so far, but to make a deeper impact requires different ways of working. So stepping back from my soapbox, for the People for Bikes working group, again, it's environmental, it's social. We've been looking at the topics that you see up there. But really, it's open to interpretation, and it's open to, what's important to different companies and different people. A snow sports brand is going to value, climate. A water sports brand is going to prioritize, ocean plastics or water impact. So it really is a moving target. Let's see. Next slide, please. So we've been meeting, the Sustainability Working Group has been meeting for about 4 months, since April. And the people on that previous slide were my constant quarantine companions. It was kind of great to develop that community and talk with people who are facing a lot of similar issues. And we've learned a bunch since April. We've made some good progress. My takeaways are really just the foundational nature of supply chain social responsibility. I think that not only does compliance with supply chain due diligence and human trafficking laws, it allows you to stay abreast of those regulations, but it also establishes a foundation of working with suppliers in your supply chain on other things like sustainability. In most industries, they've found through life cycle analysis work that 80 to 90% of our climate and other impacts are in the supply chain. So if you don't know who your suppliers are, don't have a process of engaging them in a process of continuous improvement, you're going to have a tough time having impacts in that area that is so hugely important. Let's see. Yeah, beyond that, I think the thing that we've discovered as a group is that you know, there are some things that are common amongst all these brands, even though we're all pretty different. That there's a concern about our climate impacts. There's a concern about the impacts of the materials that we use. The extraction and the processing of raw materials is a huge environmental impact. And there's also an acknowledgement that we generate too much waste, and we need to work on ways of eliminating waste, finding ways to deal appropriately with our products at the end of their useful life. Again, an overarching theme for me is that collaboration is super important. The good news is that in addition to the People for Bikes Sustainability Working Group, there's some other good collaborations going on in the bike space. The Responsible Sport Initiative that we're part of, as is REI, Excel, Pawn, some others, Scott Sports, and we have developed a shared standard and a shared mechanism for doing social and environmental auditing in our shared supply chain. And by collaborating on that, we've leapfrogged. We were behind a lot of other industry sectors, and we're rapidly catching up. In addition, there's an organization similar to the People for Bike Sustainability Working Group operating in the EU under CONABE, and Trek, us are both members of both groups. And so we're keeping abreast of developments there and trying to work together so that we don't duplicate effort. And then thirdly, as Jesse mentioned, the OAA Climate Action Corps, while it's not specific to the bike industry, can really jumpstart our climate efforts. So that's a huge collaborative tool that you'll be hearing more about. Next slide. So what's next? The way the group is sort of shaking out is there's the larger group. We'll probably not meet every 2 weeks going forward, I'm guessing, but we'll meet regularly and discuss topics that are important to us. We'll engage in educating ourselves, learning from ourselves. There's a lot of expertise in the group. And when there isn't expertise in the group, we've brought in outside experts like the Environmental Defense Fund Fellow that helped us with some of our foundational work. And this group, the task is basically to choose the next areas of focus, like what are some shared problems that have potential collaborative solutions. And these we spin off into project subgroups, like Chris talked about the hard goods restricted substance list. The project subgroups are generally smaller. They're staffed by people who are subject matter experts in those. And hard goods restricted substance was chosen because it's a great example. We could all go out and develop our own restricted substance list, but then we'd all have done basically the same work redundantly. And more importantly, we make it harder on our suppliers and our shared supply chains. All of a sudden, a supplier who works with us and Yakima and Trek has to go out and comply with 3 different sets of standards. And that's hugely disruptive. So, I think it's a great example. As I said, it's a shared problem with a non-competitive solution. Next slide. And oh, I jumped, sorry. But yeah, so we're at the point now where we need to figure out what that next one is. And that's why it's an exciting time for this group.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Troy. I agree. You all have been amazing pandemic buddies, but I can't wait until the magical day where we can come together and work together in one room. So Troy, again, thank you for leading our sustainability working group, and to all three of you for being part of shaping the sustainability future of the bike industry. Before we get to talking about the Climate Action Corps, which is one way that folks can move forward with their membership benefit on sustainability on their own, I'd like to reground us in the why and ask each of our coalition members to talk about their reasonings. So Chris, I'm gonna start with you if you wanna unmute and bring your video back on. And so why is Yakima interested in sustainability and climate action? And why did you join both the Sustainability Working Group and OIA's Climate Action Corps? The big why. Why sustainability for you?
Yeah, so let's start with why sustainability. Organizations, there's a broad list of reasons why organizations start working on sustainability. And they're not all mutually exclusive. There's opportunity focus, and that's, our customers or our consumers, they value it and really trying to really resonate with either the customers or consumers. There's also defensive reasons. It's really risk mitigation and compliance. I mean, there's laws and there's rules, and there's upcoming laws and rules, regulatory or customer requirements. Is we sell to retailers, and various large retailers have changing requirements just to do business with them. Or even for defensively, consumer expectations or blowback. If we're doing something wrong, that can go bad. Another reason, general reason, is resilience. Really trying to avoid business disruption, and that's a lot of times that could be supply chain disruption or just being proactive to avoid needing to make defensive reactionary moves. And then there's the reason probably a lot of us are here is just doing the right thing, trying to make sure that the company is doing good. All the business, everybody here, every organization puts different weights on those different reasons. We've been fortunate at Yakima to not need to be in reactive mode. All the reasons play a part, but really we're trying to, at Yakima, we're trying to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our customers and consumers by doing the right thing and making sure that we're doing it authentically. And I think the key word for us internally has been authentically. The way we can justify some of this is, it improves our brand strength and it ensures our business is set up to be resilient. With all our sustainability efforts, we've been following some certain ground rules. Number one is it's important at Yakima for us to be authentic. This is core to our brand. And we want to make sure that we're spending our effort doing things that actually drive progress, no greenwashing. So we try and make sure that we're doing more than we say we're doing. And the next thing is sustainability. It's a journey, not a destination. We're trying to make sure that there's a lot to do, and we're trying to make sure that we're making progress every year. It's ideal that we're trying to make progress every quarter of every year, but really what it is, every year we're trying to do better. And we should be able to, we're never going to get there. There's not a there. It's always, let's just do better. And then what we're doing, we're trying to make sure that what we're doing is good for the business. There's different ways to quantify that. We're not in a business where we can afford to throw money and resources at something. So we need to do it responsibly. That also comes back to the journey, not a destination, doing it a little bit progress every year. And then finally, we're trying to lead lead where we can and provide some value, because we are all in this together, and we're not isolated. So so where we can help others, that's pretty important for us. Now, why a sustainability working group? We don't have any dedicated experts on staff. We're trying to make the most progress with the resources we have. To do this, we don't really have any interest in reinventing the wheel. And as I was saying, sustainability is a journey, not a destination. Well, just about any journey is better with friends and colleagues. Besides being more rewarding, it's certainly a lot easier. So we joined the Sustainability Working Group for 3 reasons. The cohort of peers and brands going through the same journey as us. framework and tools provided that allow us to focus on implementing improvements rather than reinventing the wheel, and some ability to share our learnings. You know, when we're ahead, hopefully we can help other brands in their journey. Now, why Climate Action Corps? We have the same reason that I just mentioned with Sustainability Working Group, why joining the Climate Action Corps, but Climate Action Corps is more focused. So going through our journey, we had determined that 2020 was the year that we were going to start measuring our greenhouse gases and focusing on improvement. And the Climate Action Corps opportunity popped up. Timing was perfect for us with our journey. It's like, hey, we need to do this. Let's jump in with a cohort of peers. The Climate Action Corps commitments provide us with a timeline, and this gives us a sense of urgency. That's it sticks. It's a little bit more valuable than an internal sense of urgency. So it's easy to push things out when, I don't know, things that happen around us get in the way. And so the Climate Action Corps commitment, it gives us something to work for. And as I mentioned, is that, you know, the tools and the framework and the cohort are the key. Okay.
Awesome, Chris. Thank you. You did a fantastic job of breaking down my multi-part question into a very understandable reason. Brody, I know this, Eric, I noticed that we have a question here. And Chris, I might just ask you really quickly now to hop back on. And the question is, when you say customers, what do you mean? Is this your end users or the retailers that buy their products?
So when we talk customers, we talk about retailers and distributors, and we talk consumers of the end users. And you know, in a changing world, historically, Yakima doesn't have a lot of direct consumers that are direct customers, but and that's growing. But I think customers are our retail business and distributor business partners.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Katie Thompson, you are up next. And it's the same question, the big question of why sustainability, the working group, and Climate Action Corps.
So I think I could probably answer this with kind of saying ditto to what Chris offered, but I'm going to try to, build on this a little bit. I think twofold, speaking to Burley's, reason of why sustainability, why sustainable working group, why OIA Climate Action Corps. Burley has kind of came at sustainability from two places. Being a manufacturer of children's related products, we have very high regulatory standards and compliance standards that we need to follow for mostly chemical compliance and some, performance compliance and whatnot. But on the chemical compliance side, we have spent many years digging in on the chemical side to ensure that we're meeting a high level of expectations. And that puts us in a great, I think, pivot place to really dig in and further look upstream in terms of what we can do chemically to really adjust our impact on this environment. The second part is really what Burley's known for. Burley is known for the durability and longevity of our products. I have not yet met anyone specifically, mainly in our industry, but outside our industry as well, that doesn't have a Burley story, whether it is a bike ride or their experience as children, it's their experience as parents, it's their experience as, in the current pandemic, hauling groceries to friends or family or community members with cargo trailers. There is that connection to just the durability and longevity of our products, and that has been a historic value. So as we look on the product development side, one of the big pivot points that we're looking at in sustainability, and one of the big drivers for us, is how do we maintain and really grow the circularity of our products to make sure that we're maintaining products that are already out in the field, as well as we're creating new products, how are we keeping serviceability in mind? And that's been one of the forefront ideas from our team, as we're looking at sustainability. So, definitely from the material and the manufacturing side, but also, just really how does our team make design decisions, and then how is our brand set up across the board to really support that. And so that's been kind of at the forefront of some of the ideas we've been digging into. I think the, why sustainability is, one of the things to build on what, Chris said too, I think is the business imperative. I think looking at my window today, this becomes very personal in that we are, 30 miles from a major wildfire right now, and these climate related instances are going to continue to grow. If we don't have, and if our consumers, don't have places to safely recreate, that is a concern to our business health. And while, yes, it is, and I completely agree, it is the right thing to do. I think it is also imperative to the success of us as a business to address climate action. And so that's really a personal why. Why looking at sustainability and why looking at the climate action that we can take as a brand. At Burley, we joined the People for Bikes Sustainable Working Group and OIA Climate Action Corps, mostly importantly due to the collaboration and the opportunity to really amplify and unify our efforts across industries. We are a very small team. We're a very small company. None of us are experts, as Chris said, in sustainability, in climate action. And we knew it was going to be pivotal for us to really learn from others. So we can, again, I love how Chris stated this, focus on implementing versus creating all the tools and creating all the guidance and other aspects of this. We can really focus on building from others, learning from others, and focusing our efforts into the future. So that means that we're really, as a small company, we're able to really dig in and learn. And the other piece that I really love, Chris, that you called out is the accountability. When we're getting together on a monthly or on a bi-weekly basis, we can ask each other, how's it going? There are metrics in the Climate Action Corps that really are helping you look at what your process is, and holding you accountable to making those steps. And that's great, because we all know things come up, there are other business priorities that arise, and we all need to continue this journey forward. So the other piece of that is, as you're looking at progressing, you have peers surrounded you in both of these groups that help you get over those hurdles. So I can count a number of times where I've reached out to peers that I've met either through OIA or through People for Bikes and said, hey, how did you tackle this problem? We have a similar product or a similar manufacturing process. How are you getting over this hurdle? And we're able to share and talk through some of the ways that we've been able to successfully navigate. And that has been one of the greatest, I think, successes in just some of the early collaboration with these two groups. So kind of bringing it all back together, I think, personal why and business why, really, we have to, in order to address recreation in the lands in which our products are used. And, Sustainable Working Group, Climate Action Corps, I think if you're a brand looking to jump in, it is the best place to start with resources and tools to help you start that journey.
Katie, thank you so much for giving both the personal and the business why, and helping us really put that personal touch on understanding why we have to. Out here in Colorado, we've got fires as well, and that's been the one main thing keeping me off of my bike, despite being an avid bike rider. So thank you again, Katie, for your comments. And Troy, I'll bring it back to you for your whys on sustainability, the working group, and Climate Action Corps. Thanks.
I guess I could just say double ditto, because and then move on and tell you my Burley stories for an hour, because I have plenty of them. I think for Specialized, one of our corporate mantras is do the right thing. It sounds trite, but like a lot of trite things, it's true. But there are lots of right things to do. And I think the challenge is how to prioritize sustainability with performance, with cost, with other factors. And for us, it really helps that we've seen numerous instances where doing the right thing ended up avoiding business disruption. As legislation or enforcement sort of caught up and evolved, and we were prepared for it. We didn't have that business disruption because we were already, say, working with our suppliers on their water discharge or air discharge, that sort of thing. And we expect that that's going to get more important in the future. We expect environmental and social regulations to evolve, as will consumer expectations, especially among younger consumers and consumers that we're looking to get out of a car and into a bike. These are people for whom sustainability, how we make the products that we sell, is an important factor in who they buy from. And so, these are key growth areas for us, and a lot of other companies in these groups. And so, as for why the Sustainability Working Group, we recognized, we saw the value of collaboration with the RSI, the Responsible Sport Initiative, and knew that there was an opportunity to have some more environmentally focused collaboration. And I think that's borne out to be true. And then the Climate Action Corps, climate is a huge challenge that frankly, we don't have the expertise internally to deal with. And so, we're looking to join the Climate Action Corps just to have instant access to those standards, that the resources, tools that'll help us, understand and start to reduce our climate impacts much more quickly than we could have individually. So there's a lot of common themes with Burley and with Yakima. Again, I will echo the access to the peer group. It's my understanding, and just JJ, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but all People for Bikes members will have access to all the tools that the Sustainability Working Group produces, but the access to that peer group, I think, is really invaluable and a great reason to be a member of both the Sustainability Working Group and the Climate Action Corps. And I think that is the segue to have Jessie talk more about Climate Action Corps.
Hey, thank you, Troy. And yes, you're correct, right? The coalition membership will get all the resources coming out of the Sustainability Working Group that we're creating, but that collaborative effort and being able to shape the place that we're going is really key. And thank you to all of you. A couple of those really great themes kept popping up: doing the right thing to avoid business disruption. We have a legal, legislative, and safety subcommittee at People for Bikes as well. So we're very much, the sustainability efforts that we're doing are tied back into that legal, legislative mandates. Collaboration is key was another big theme. And then none of us are experts was that last really big theme. I certainly don't have sustainability in my title. And so when we looked to who are our partners, who are the experts in this space, it was very obvious that that Outdoor Industry Association and all the work that they've done over the years with the sustainability working groups that they've had, and now really focusing on Climate Action Corps. You all are the experts, Jessie. So Jessie, I'm going to let you share your expertise about what the Climate Action Corps is. And then at the end, I'll just quickly talk about the membership benefit, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Thanks, Jessie.
Awesome. Thanks, JJ. Thanks, Troy, Katie, and Chris for sharing. I will also preface this that I'm not an expert. There's obviously such a spectrum of what expertise looks like, but I have the privilege of working with OIA and tons and tons of, folks who've been in the industry for a long time, initiated a lot of this early sustainability work for the industry. And so I have the privilege of working with them. So a lot of their knowledge is in this Climate Action Corps. So I just want to call this out. But You know, between what's been shared already, I think it's clear that we all recognize that we sit at a really exciting moment in the bike industry's history today. Much has been tried in the past. Troy shared a little bit of that, but seeing the involvement so far from companies to get this group off the ground, the SWG in particular, alongside the dedicated support and facilitation from People for Bikes, really leads me to believe there's great promise here. It's a rare moment to come together and align on the impact the industry wants to drive over the next few years and beyond. So I just wanted to say thank you for those who are actively participating in the SWG already, and all of your hard work that I know goes on behind the scenes. I've actually been grateful to be involved so far, primarily listening and sharing some knowledge that OIA has gained from hosting our own industry's SWG for the past decade. And we're really excited to see climate rise as a key area for the outdoor and bike industries to come together on through this Climate Action Core. So as JJ referenced, this is OIA's new collaborative model to empower collective action to achieve measurable and meaningful carbon reductions, while simultaneously combining and amplifying industry's political voices together. So I'll spend the next 10 to 15 minutes walking you through the core, who's involved so far, what companies commit to, and how it helps companies reduce their footprint faster and cheaper than what they could likely achieve on their own. Slide. Okay, so when we announced the Climate Action Core in January of this year, we only had 15 founding members, and today we're excited to share that we have over 80, 65 of which are shown here and have officially joined and are into the weeds of the work. 15 additional companies are in the process of joining. And as you can see, it's a pretty broad mix of brands, but also retailers and suppliers, also producing a broad range of products from apparel and footwear to tents and water bottles, snowboards, all sorts of gear, and hopefully very soon bikes and bicycle components. But what these companies, of course, have in common is they all recognize that climate poses a unique and growing risk to their business. You know, from unpredictable outdoor seasons like we're experiencing this week across, you know, the Northwest and Colorado, and you know, vulnerability in supply chains, growing demands from customers to improve and take action. All of this motivates companies to take climate action. So echoing, you know, what Troy shared and Katie and Chris, it's not just the right thing to do. It's really becoming a clear business imperative. Next slide. And it's important to be aligned on that because we see the best tool we have to fight climate change as each other. You know, again, as has been echoed before, collaboration really is key, and it's the secret sauce to this work in particular. It's simply cheaper, faster, and smarter to go through this kind of tough journey together than alone. So when you look at the other options, let's say to measure your carbon footprint, like doing a life cycle assessment on your key products or hiring out a consultant, it can cost anywhere from, let's say, $5,000 to $15,000 for a life cycle assessment for one product, or $15,000 to $50,000 for your carbon footprint through a consultant. So for companies, you know, that have small teams and finite resources, like I know a lot of OIA members are in that boat, and I trust People for Bike members as well. This is often beyond your reach to take on yourself. But it's also worth noting that it will only take you so far. Even once you have your carbon footprint and you've maybe set some targets, you'll actually need the internal knowledge of your own business to identify the right reduction opportunities. And you'll likely need to work with other companies to reach scale and keep projects cost effective. So knowing that a lot of companies are choosing to work through the core and find that they can actually progress and implement faster through the tools and trainings and collaborative opportunities that they get, which I'll speak to in a few minutes. I also should mention, looking at this mountain, you know, some of the companies on the previous slide are already well on their way up the mountain, yet most are actually just getting started on the trail, and we think that's great. It can be really paralyzing to start, but it's critical that you do. And wherever you're at in the journey, the Climate Action Core is designed to help you take those next steps. Next slide. All right, so what are those steps? So members commit to these 4 steps of the climate action journey. They commit to measure their entire carbon footprint from their headquarters to their supply chain, which I'll touch on in a second. They will plan by setting greenhouse gas reduction targets and building a company plan to ratchet up action over time. They commit to reducing emissions by taking immediate and ongoing actions to drive down carbon emissions. And they commit to share progress annually through a simple progress report to drive transparency and accountability. So this may seem like a lot, but recognizing that companies can be vastly different when it comes to business models and agility for change and varying levels of ambition, companies actually aren't held to specific requirements within the core. Instead, core members actually receive the guidance that's in line with science and global best practices. So each company has informed recommendations and can decide what's best for them. So most companies this year in particular, especially with everything going on, they're focused on measurement. So I'll talk about that in just a second here. Slide. And you can click through once more there. Thanks. So as with anything, of course, measuring is a really critical first step so you can understand where you're at and direct your time and resources effectively. But in truth, it can be very challenging and time-intensive process as your company collects better and more accurate data for your business over time. So the core aims to help companies save time by offering the guidance and tools and trainings that I've mentioned that actually help teams accelerate their learning so they can focus on the more important work of identifying and actually implementing reductions. But when you do measure, what do you find? For most companies, especially brands and retailers, regardless of size, it generally looks like this pie chart here. This one in particular is from a retailer in Europe called CNA, but you can expect a very similar breakdown across companies like Toyota, Burton, REI, and many others. So in short, the smaller percentages shown here in darker blue, the two darker blue colors, account for energy consumption in any owned or operated facilities, like offices and other company spaces, which together are known as Scope 1 and Scope 2. And the largest piece of the pie in light blue clearly represents the majority of emissions, which are those from the value chain, and known as Scope 3. The majority of those emissions are broken out on the right-hand side there, and the biggest piece of that is called a category called purchased goods and services, which encompasses your products, materials, and supply chain. So all of this kind of mumbo jumbo may not mean anything to you, but the short answer, the point that I'm trying to make is that the majority of the emissions are in your product supply chain. Just as Troy mentioned earlier, the majority of most impacts are in your product supply chain. But when we look at this kind of diagram, you can see that with emissions as well, the majority is in your product supply chain. So if we focus on just that piece, actually, and break it down even further, we can start to see some interesting things. Next slide. So here are some average or outdoor products and where the greenhouse gas emissions might lie, just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about here. We have a jacket, a shoe, and a stainless steel water bottle. Clearly, we need a bike version, which I will make a challenge right now to the SWG to make happen. Of course, this kind of data, it should be noted that these percentages reflect a general estimate pulled from the best available data that we have today. So it may not directly reflect what's happening in every single product supply chain, but it essentially serves as a good indication of where impacts are happening based on product type. So clearly within the jacket, you can see the most significant stages of emissions occur in material manufacturing, like yarn prep, dyeing, and finishing. Within footwear, it's clearly that manufacturing at 43%, and the stainless steel water bottle, it's also in that manufacturing and assembly piece. So being able to measure and have data on your own product and business is really critical to help your company prioritize its efforts and get the most bang for its buck. This visibility is also really helpful in that it just acknowledges simply that the biggest impacts are often the hardest to reach areas for one single company, which is the supply chain. So we know this is a very complex network to navigate and influence. So it's clear that we'll really need to work together. Next slide. So these are the ways that we aspire to work together for reducing emissions. And we call these our guiding principles for the Climate Action Core. So from low carbon materials to energy efficiency and renewable energy to circular business models and cleaner transportation of our products, we'll be actively exploring opportunities in these areas over the coming years. We also recognize that advocacy must be a part of the solution. We know that many of our members want to at least start to green their own house before they feel comfortable advocating on the Hill or engaging, their consumers. And so the core really gives them a sense to authentically do that and empowers the transparency to make that happen. We also recognize that the tens of millions of outdoor consumers and bike enthusiasts are also potential climate advocates and, of course, voters. And so we have, a huge opportunity to influence consumers as well through the brands involved in the core. Next. Yeah, you can go ahead and click through those if you want, JJ or Eric, thanks. So this program is unique in that it's not another packed pledge or promise that you sign your logo onto. There are a lot of those out there. What's different about the Climate Action Core is OIA is dedicated to supporting you across each step of the journey. So this slide is getting at how we do that. So Climate Action Core members get guidance. So members get a simple and easy to use guidebook. That's your quick go-to resource as you progress across measuring your footprint and setting targets and reducing your emissions over time. Trainings, there's a series of online trainings following this collective calendar to keep your teams on track. We've had a total of, we will have a total of 10 trainings offered in 2020 with more to come in the following year. And then tools, we have recommended tools that are free or discounted through the Climate Action Core that help you accelerate aspects like measurement, so you can then focus on the reductions. And then community, of course, it's already been highlighted, throughout this presentation so far, but through the Climate Action Core, it's no different. Community is so important. And through the core, you get the chance to connect across the industry through an online community with others working on the same issues. So it's really critical. So you can spend less time searching for answers and more time diving in where other companies have been successful. And then lastly, there on the lower right, Climate Action Core members get impact collab opportunities. So these are targeted collaborations that OIA either leads or facilitates a partnership with to reduce emissions, such as widespread renewable energy procurement in the US, mill energy efficiency improvements in China, and increased use of recycled content, just to name a few that we're currently either focused on right now or currently developing. All in all, those projects are an effort to help members meet their targets in less time for less cost and effort. So that's what Climate Action Core members get. And then next slide, yeah. So with these resources, what does OIA and the Climate Action Core members hope to achieve? Our goal for OIA this year is to have at least half of OIA membership, as defined by dues revenue, having joined the Climate Action Core. And we're about halfway there, which we think is pretty great for this unexpected year and really serves as a testament to how companies, how important they see this work actually. And then not on this slide, but our collective goal for Climate Action Core members by the end of the year is to have them all measure their Scope 1 and Scope 2 footprint and start on their Scope 3, set a target, and make a renewable energy commitment. So expect to hear more on this later this year and early into 2021 as we report back on that. And then by the end of 2021, our goal is to have every member have measured all scopes, set a target, and share their progress publicly. And then in the coming years, we'll also report measurable progress from our impact collabs each year and produce an industry progress report as well. So with that, I'll sum things up by saying that we really hope to grow this community in the coming year, particularly with the bike industry and its unique opportunity to demonstrate authentic leadership to its customers and beyond. OIA and People for Bikes knows that we can go faster and further together, which is why we're excited to partner and actually offer this program at a discount to People for Bikes members, which JJ will speak to in just a minute. But thank you so much, and I'll look forward to questions at the end when we open up Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jesse. I very much appreciate that. So this is, the last slide before we jump into Q&A, and it's really just to help us talk about how can you get involved. And there's two items here. One is the Sustainability Working Group, and it's open to all People for Bikes Coalition members to help lead the bike industry and where we're going with sustainability. So you can email me, jj@peopleforbikes.org, and we can start that conversation. And I know there's one question from Donald. Does the working group have representatives downstream of the manufacturers, i.e. retailer, packaging, shipping, waste industries? And I will say we do have, REI is also co-chair Greg Gaswitz with REI. We do have a distributor as well. As far as packaging, shipping, and waste industries go, I don't know that we have anyone representing them right now. We certainly like to bring in experts, but we're open, right? So if you want to reach out to me at jj@peopleforbikes.org, let's have that conversation and let's bring all the voices together so that we can figure out how to do it better. And the second get involved is that Climate Action Corps membership benefit. So we, again, decided to partner with Outdoor Industry Association to provide this as a membership benefit to coalition members. And you'll notice a chart here, and we're happy to have personal conversations with you. But basically, you do not need to join Outdoor Industry Association in order to get their OIA member discounts. And so if you are already a People for Bikes Coalition member, they're extending that offer over to People for Bikes members. And again, happy to have these personal conversations as well to make sure that we know that we're talking about your exact price and coalition, and if you're interested in joining the Sustainability Working Group. So thank you, Brody, for that. We are now into Q&As. And there are two questions already. Jesse, I believe that these are going to be for you, if you want to unmute and put on your video. One question from Donald: will the Climate Action Corps have tools or models for startups?
Yes, short answer is yes. That's a great question. The majority of OIA's members are small to mid-sized companies, and so that was really the origin of creating this kind of program, was to provide an easy on-ramp for smaller companies. We have, just as an example, we have a range of, larger companies like REI and Patagonia involved, but we also have startup companies already involved where you have a team of one or a team of two. So in particular around the tools, we help onboard on a tool like the Climate Neutral Brand Emissions Estimator. That's a great, easy tool for especially smaller companies to just get a quick estimate of their data and refine a measurement over time. That's just one example. We also help companies onboard and access the Higg Index tools, which have been referenced a little bit today, and I won't go into depth on these, but that's another way to more specifically measure your footprint based on, your facility data and data tied to your materials. And so, yeah, in short, we, provide you information, the guidance and the trainings, and either discounts or try and highlight low-cost tools.
Thank you, Jesse. Next question I think is for you as well. Anthony asked, does manufacturing and/or assembly costs include local worker transportation, including, for example, bicycle mode share, mass transit, and single occupant vehicle travel to work?
That's a big one, Anthony. Yeah, I again am not a life cycle assessment or greenhouse gas emissions expert, so I would punt this to some of my team internally. But in short, what I think you're referencing is that greenhouse gas footprint where we had the jacket, the water bottle, and the footwear. And that data, two of those pieces of data comes from Qantas. And because that's focused on scope 3, I believe that kind of transportation would be included. But again, I'd have to go back to the GHG protocol and confirm that, or ask an expert. So I'm happy to follow up on that.
Thank you, Jesse. And the last question we have in our Q&A is, can we get a copy of today's presentation? And the answer is absolutely yes. Eric Burdell will be following up with an email and can include a link to today's recording, as well as PDF slide decks. And that is all I see for Q&A. We'll just give a quick second for anyone else to type their question into the Q&A box. And maybe while we're given that moment, if everyone wants to go ahead and unmute and share their video, I think one great way to end this out would be to ask Chris and Katie and Troy, you know, Jesse, this was a great question you asked. What's one thing everyone would suggest to just get started? Chris, do you want to start us off?
You know, yeah, getting started, there's so many opportunities to improve. It's pretty overwhelming. So, but the one thing is figure out a way to measure something and just measure where you're at. Just by measuring, you'll uncover things, and it'll help you prioritize. You can't do it all, so start by measuring.
Thank you, Chris. Katie? Do I get a ditto plus?
Chris took mine, but I think that, you know, it is overwhelming and coming in and saying, where do we go? Where do we start? We have so many opportunities. You know, I think find something that really resonates, measure it, and figure out an action plan around that issue. I think then pivoting that, some of the things that we have found the most successful in some of OIA's framework is helping to understand how do you uncover some of the bigger hotspots as well. So then you know you're focusing on the right things. But I think if you're struggling on getting going, identify that one thing, measure it, find some short wins, find some successes, and move forward on that. That generates more interest in the topic internally as well. And so I'd kind of recommend that two-step process.
Katie? Troy?
Double ditto again, but I guess my broken record is get to know your supply chain. As I said before, you know, so many of these impacts are in the supply chain. So you gotta map it. You gotta know who you're working with, what processes are involved in what stages of the supply chain. Engage those suppliers in a process of continuous improvement on to your social and environmental standards. If you don't have them, look at joining the RSI. I can give you more information on that. And also the OIA, the Fair Labor Toolkit. You know, we produced a toolkit after several years of work, and the OIA went on to make that vastly better than what my group did. So there are some great resources out there. Check out OIA's website, and you can get a good understanding of how to engage your supply chain.
I love it. Thank you so much to all of you today. Jesse, was there anything that you wanted to say?
Everyone took what I was going to say. Measure, choose one thing to do, one hotspot. Yeah, I think they summed it up. It's really just taking that first step, and measurement provides you the visibility you need to really, you know, then choose what kind of issue areas, you know, your employees are passionate about or your customers want to see you act on. But yeah, start with measure. So ditto, ditto, ditto.
I love it. Maybe ditto will be our last word for the day. Or maybe I'll just say our emails are at the bottom for JJ and Jesse, and I'm happy to also, Katie, Chris, and Troy, if you're okay with it, I can provide your emails back out to folks who ask for it. And you can just start with an email, and then we can get going from there. Everyone, thank you so much. Very much. Thank you. Thank you from the chat as well. And Eric Burdell, I don't know how to close these out, so I guess I'll say thank you one last time, and you'll be following up with an email.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.